Hey, Shalom, it's your brother Yonathan, all right? First and foremost, I want to give all praises to the Most High, Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahushai, Bahashim, Rakah HaKodash. I want to give double honor to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone. I want to say Shalom to all the brothers and, of course, the few sisters pursuing this truth in sincerity, all right? May the blessing of election be upon your house. I got a clip I want to show you all. We're going to respond to it through the spirit. The individual speaking in the clip is our code name. We just say Gil Bates. Try to get around the algorithm, for our speech being policed. Now, most of you may not know this, but this man is the majority landowner in America and produces much of the food that we consume. So for those who don't know that, the amount of authority this man has been given over what's put in our bodies, over the systems on how we get our sustenance all around the world should be alarming and off-putting to you if the spirit is dealing with you. At the end of the day, there's no enchantment against Jacob. The scriptures talk about us eating poison and living. All right. But the fact that this man is in this position and openly saying the shit that he's saying should grieve you in the spirit. The scriptures say that the Lot was vexed from day to day with the filthy conversation of the wicked. He was vexed with the society that he was in. And the elect are going to be in that same spirit. You go to Ezekiel, the 9th chapter, it says that the elect will be sighing and crying for the abominations being done in the midst thereof. All right. So if you're a believer in the scriptures, if you're a believer in Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai, you're going to be in the spirit of constantly being like, ugh, with this place. And you're longing for the establishment of the kingdom of heaven. And that only happens in a particular way. The Lord has set benchmarks or prophecies that have to happen before we get to that end goal. All right. But with no further ado, I'm going to run two clips. The first clip I want to show you is of a TED Talk this man had maybe going on 15 years ago now. And then we're going to play the next clip because they have an Agenda 2030 they're trying to establish in which they change the infrastructure in which the shipping of goods go down, how things are transported, how people pay, how people sell. All right. They're trying to set up the MOTB, the mark of the beast infrastructure. And they got a guy like this leading in the forefront of this charge. Well, as a face of it. Okay. Behind the scenes, there's guys above him, above the leaders of governments that are really calling the shots. But let's run this clip of this TED Talk over a decade ago now, even before the pandemic happened in 2020. This man said this.
This equation has four factors, a little bit of multiplication. So you've got a thing on the left, CO2, that you want to get to zero. And that's going to be based on the number of people, the services each person's using on average, the energy on average for each service, and the CO2 being put out per unit of energy. So let's look at each one of these and see how we can get this down to zero. Probably one of these numbers is going to have to get pretty near to zero. That's back from high school algebra, but let's take a look. First, we've got population. The world today has 6.8 billion people. That's headed up to about 9 billion. Now, if we do a really great job on new vaccines, healthcare, reproductive health services, we could lower that by perhaps 10 or 15%. But there we see an increase of about 1.3.
It makes me think, who are the people in this crowd finding that amusing? They have to be juiced in, or maybe it's just, maybe it's AI or just paid act. I don't know. Because they all started laughing when one of these numbers have to get close to zero, and he had the P highlighted, which was the people. Who finds that funny? And then what did he said he was going to use to do it in that clip? Things that make you go, So this guy who stole the patent for his computer program all of a sudden just became, this leader in the health sector. Strange. But he has no business there. And nothing this guy pushes is true. I remember seeing a interview he did a couple years ago, he was talking about trees being bad. How it's how trees were a problem. We got to get rid of it. The deforestation is important. We got to get the trees down because they're overheating the earth. That's what he was saying. And the guy interviewing him even was like, kind of looked at him, kind of strange, like what? Like, so he responded with, "Yeah, you gotta leave this kind of stuff to the experts. Everybody knows trees are necessary for us to breathe. What the fuck is this guy talking about?" Anyway, he fits this description. Let's go to Job, the 13th chapter and the 4th verse. It says, "But ye are forgers of lies. Ye are all physicians of no value." Okay, when you talk about a physician, and the word here is H7495, it's going to be like Rapa'ah. It's talking about somebody that's able to help heal another. Okay, let's read that again. "But ye are forgers of lies, ye are all physicians of no value." And let's follow that up. Let's go to John, the 8th chapter and the 44th verse. Now, this is Yahweh Shai talking to the Israelites, saying that our people were in the spirit of this wicked. I'm going to read it first. John 8 and 44. "Ye are of your father the devil, and the lust of your father ye will do. He was a murderer from the beginning," talking about Cain, right? Cain was reincarnated or regenerated as Esau. Same spirit. "He was a murderer from the beginning, and abode not in the truth, because there is no truth in him. When he speaketh a lie, he speaketh of his own, for he is a liar, and the father of it." Okay? So a lot of our people even, they don't bat an eye at these things. They think Bill Gates is like this billionaire philanthropist. Like he's an upright guy. Let's look up that word philanthropist right quick. Philanthropist. A philanthropist is an individual who voluntarily dedicates resources, including time, money, expertise, or talent, to improve human welfare. He is not doing that. He's the opposite of this. To improve human welfare and support for the common good. It just showed you in the clip that he's trying to get that number down. Now he pops up in India in this next clip I'm gonna show you, talking about how they're advanced in, you know, setting up this infrastructure. We want to bring this to the rest of the world. So let's listen, knowing what we know his real agenda is. Let's listen to what he's saying, because it can seem fuzzy to you if you don't know what this man's motive is. But he wants to get the population down for the sake of control. It's easier to control people when it's not a lot of them.
Another place that India leads, but there's a lot more that all of you can be involved in driving forward, is this digital public infrastructure. You know, no country is more able to take government benefits and get them out efficiently and effectively to their citizens than India. You know, you would have expected rich countries or others to do that, but in fact, they did not. And so that basic structure that starts with identity and bank accounts and payments is just foundational. And as part of this visit, I'm now seeing how that foundation is being built out in agriculture with profiles of farmers to understand what they need and give them advice, built out with health records so that we can help people not only with infectious diseases, but the challenge that's coming in the future with the growth of the non-communicable diseases being a huge thing. And that digital public infrastructure will help us with these climate problems. I was in Odisha yesterday, and what they showed is that they've registered the farmers and registered what type of crops they grow and what land they own. They literally have a control center. You know, when you walk in, you think, wow, this is agriculture, but, you know, you've got a command center and maps and people doing queries and sending out messages. And so that all starts, you know, with an Aadhaar identity, listing those farmers, getting the information, making sure it's up to date.
Now, this man, Slovakia, this man was all over West Africa years back, probably still over there. you know, trying to develop a juice for HIV, malaria, all these various diseases. He was taking samples of DNA from a bunch of jakes in West Africa. Really, they were just over there, trying to figure out how to, you know, study Jake and get inside of them to control and manipulate them, seeing if they could rewrite the code. All right, because your code is in your DNA. All right, and they probably used a lot of that. Now that I think about it, they probably used a lot of that information to develop that mRNA vaccination. I'm not gonna go into details of it because my page has been, I already had multiple pages taken down. But this is who's in the forefront of your health sector, in the forefront of your food here. Now, when they manufacture this food shortage, who's going to be there to step up and say, "Hey, well, you can have access to, you know, what I got. Got to take this chip first." Everything's being set up for everybody to bend the knee to this devil. He has that God complex, all right, like it talks about in Isaiah 14:14, 2 Thessalonians 2. Let me actually go get some of those. Let me get the one in 2 Thessalonians first. Bear with me really quick here while I pull it up. But despite this man's God complex, the Lord's going to give him the biggest slice of humble pie, like the title says. Okay? We're going to 2 Thessalonians first, and we're going to read we're going to start at verse 3. It says, "Let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come, except there come a falling away first, and that man of sin be revealed." The man of sin is being revealed in our time. It's clear who it is. The son of perdition. Okay? Verse 4, "Who opposeth and exalt God, and exalteth himself above all that is called God." Now, this scripture always makes me think of Noah Yuval Harari. I didn't run any clips of him today in the lesson, but this is a man who's open about his challenge to the Most High for who knows best. We don't need God. We can make our own water. That's it. When you hear the brothers quoting that guy, that's Noah Yuval Harari, who's now the head of the World Economic Forum. Okay? 2 Thessalonians 2:4, "Who opposeth and exalteth himself above all that is called God, or worship, or that is worship, so that he as God sitteth in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God." And this man is his coming is after the working of Satan, like it says down here in the 9th verse in the same chapter. Even him who's coming is after the working of Satan, with all power and signs and lying wonders. Now let's go to Isaiah the 14th chapter, 14th verse, and I'll start at 12. Okay. It's Isaiah 14:12. "How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer?" Lucifer means light bearer or illuminated one. Okay, we're illuminated on the right hand side, but you have a left hand side as well. This devil was illuminated on the left hand side, which is why he was able to accomplish a lot of the bullshit that he's accomplished, a lot of the evil that he's accomplished. "O Lucifer, son of the morning, how art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations?" Okay, to be clung unto to evil, to wickedness, to sin. It weakens us. It weakens a mortal. Okay? And this devil is the manifestation of sin and death. The scriptures talk about that in Habakkuk 2. He is as death. So the whole world has been made weak by this man being in rulership and people adhering to his vibration or his philosophy or wine, like the scripture says. Uh Habakkuk 14:13, it says, "For thou hast said in thine heart," in his mind, La'ab, "I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will sit also in the mountain, the congregation in the sides of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High." So his goal is to be like the Most High. He wants that authority. He wants that dominion. Okay. Now, two people in the scriptures were given dominion over the earth, Jacob and Esau. Difference between the two is that Esau's is temporary. Everything that he does is to prolong his blessing. He wants the blessing that Jacob got. All right, going all the way back to Genesis, when Isaac was about to pass. What did Esau say? The days of my father have come. I'm paraphrasing. This will I slay my brother Jacob. All right. So that murder, that motivation, that tenacity, that burning hatred is still burning bright till this day. All right. But again, the Lord's going to show him that he's the one moving the pieces on the board, and that this devil truly has no power. All right. Let's go to, I'm going to get an example of a ruler being humbled. Let's, Daniel 5:21, going into how, was it Nebuchadnezzar was humbled? Belshazzar. Let me double check. Let me scroll up here. It was Nebuchadnezzar. Okay, so it's going to, because Nebuchadnezzar was in that extremely proud spirit, as though he was the Most High, as though he was God on the earth. And I think in the 4th chapter, it was Daniel 4:30. He was just talking about this day that I have made. That's what Nebuchadnezzar was saying, but he got humbled in the next chapter. So let's read this in verse 21. It says, and he was driven from the sons of man, and his heart, his mind, was made like the beast. So he put him in this crazy ass mind frame to where he was moving around like an animal, like a beast. And you know who moves around like a beast or an animal, who is completely led by the flesh? Esau Edom, the beast man, the base man of the earth. Okay? Daniel 5:21. And he was driven from the sons of man, and his heart was made like the beast, and his dwelling was with wild asses. He was down there with the donkeys. They fed him with grass like an oxen, and his body was wet with the dew of heaven. This nigga wet, stinking, till he knew that the Most High God ruled in the kingdom of men, and that he appointed over it whomsoever he will. The Lord is the one that sets the pieces on the board. So Esau, even Esau being in his position right now, the Lord put him there for our disobedience. He didn't do this of his own merit or strength, which is why he had to lie about all his accomplishments throughout history during the Renaissance period. This man has accomplished nothing but death. He's trying to masquerade as this great guy, as the father of civilization. No, this guy's a piece of shit. Less than 1,000 years ago, he was in the caves grunting. Less than 1,000 years ago, this motherfucker was in the caves grunting, not bathing, the cloth upon himself, and they would just shit in their cloth to the point it would start to stick to them. And the Moors, which were Israelites, had to come clean their asses up. Less than 1,000 years ago, this man was in the fucking caves grunting. And now he's supposed to be the grand poobah of civilization and cleanliness and morality. Bullshit. Bullshit.
Bill Gates is funding a new meat company that uses lab-created cells that never stop dividing. Kind of sounds like cancer. Well, because it is. Now, this is literally an infinite, eternal, biological creature of an engine that endlessly spits out animal tissue without needing a new creature. Where are we as humanity? Like, get this man out of the health sector. First of all, it actually holds the same biological DNA of aggressive cancers and tumors, and they're marketing it to us as regular meat. You know, can we do something? Can please? I have to buy cows now. Where am I going to buy cows? At least it's not crickets yet, but I know he's going to get us into crickets. This is my driver. You guys, stop getting oh, but it has protein in it. That thing is not natural. That's not natural. We do not need to create an amoeba of meat, mystery meat. You know, I just can't imagine what that actually looks like.
A movie that you could check out is Soylent Green. It's an older movie, but good watch. And give you a little insight to what's really going on. Soylent Green. This is Hosea 7:16. This is just going back into the judgment that's going to befall these people. They return, but not to the Most High. They've been put in this position. The scriptures talk about even how they would, in Isaiah, how they would be in the land of uprightness, dealing unjustly. That's them. They're the same people who appointed the Holy Land into their possession, pursuant to Ezekiel 36:5. It's them. They're the people forwarding evil on the earth. They're the Edomites. The same Edomites that would be prophesied to be ruling upon the return of the Lord, pursuant to 2nd Esdras 6:9, various other places. It's Hosea 7:16. They return, but not to the Most High. And this is Hosea, the Lord speaking to the northern kingdom through the prophet Hosea. But before, maybe about a decade, 2 decades before, they were exiled in the Assyrian captivity. All right, Hosea 7:16. They return, but not to the Most High. They are like a deceitful bow. Their princes shall fall by the sword for the rage of their tongue. This shall be their derision in the land of Egypt. Now, the Lord put off the northern kingdom, had them fall by the sword, had crazy shit happen to them. What do you think he's going to do to the people that he created to be the antagonists of his movie? Well, Obadiah 1:18 is what he's going to do to them. They're going to serve 1,000 years of captivity, and then they're going to be put off of the earth. They're the one nation who's going to be discontinued from inventory, from the Lord's inventory, for all the evil that they've committed, especially against his people, especially against the Lord's people. So yeah, this man has a horrific judgment to pay for all the evil that he's committed, and he's going to pay it. But before all that happens, man, the Lord's going to let him get to a point to where it seems like he's unbeatable. This devil's about to puff up his chest. He's gonna go out swinging, but he's gonna lose. And in the midst of all this chaos that's about to pop off, the elect, the Lord's always gonna make a way for us to escape. We might bump our heads from time to time, but He's always gonna make a way for us to escape. And you got to know that and trust it. The Lord is looking for faith upon His return. So that gift that you've been given, that faith, let it shine bright in this time. Now it's time to put it on display. Okay. So with that being said, I want to give all praises once more to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rakah HaKodash. I want to give double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone who taught us this truth and rule well. I want to say shalom to all the Akim and the Akwath who are pursuing this truth and sincerity. May the blessing of election be upon your house. Shalom.